What's up, guys? So very common question I get, especially from people that don't cycle, that maybe family members or friends that ask me what I do, and I tell them I'm a cycling coach, and they're kind of like, what does that mean? What does that involve? And also people that are in cycling, but maybe they don't have a coach or they have a friend that's coached, and they're kind of like, oh, that's interesting, you've got a coach, but they don't really know what that's involved. In this video, I'm going to run through what the hell a cycling coach actually is and does. So cycling coaching in general, I guess there's 4 different areas which I'll explain first. The first and probably most common type of cycling coach is a private cycling coach doing mostly online work, which is the predominant main part of my business. This is essentially what this video is going to be about, explaining what that actually involves, but it's essentially training management and training advisement to individual riders. You could also be an in-person cycling coach, so you could be doing in-person skill sessions. So something like maybe you're a mountain bike coach and you're instructing riders on how to ride their mountain bike and improve their skills in person. Then there would be cycling team or institute coaches. So this would be coaches at like the Australian Cycling Team or the New South Wales Institute of Sport. These coaches are generally paid a salary, so just paid a certain amount per year to coach either a team or certain groups of athletes inside an institute. I think in general, there's a bit of an idea that a coach that's paid a salary or some sort of institute coach is a better or more qualified coach than someone doing private coaching, which I think is not the case. There are a lot of very good, very knowledgeable, well-trained, well-studied private coaches doing one-to-one coaching. And I guess in a way that could be part of the mold I'm trying to break. I mean, I could have applied and become a coach at an institute of sport. I could have applied for a job like that, but I've chosen to go down more of the private route, working with individual riders. And I guess then the final way that you could sort of be cycling coaching would be some sort of sports scientist or consultant. So this might be someone who's not working with individual athletes or teams, but maybe just providing some sort of more specific niche sports science advice to a team. So you hear sometimes in the World Tour team, they'll have sports scientists and they might not necessarily be working with individual athletes, but providing more information or doing specific testing or anything like that with a team. That's probably the least common method of cycling coaching. All right, so the main point of this video was to explain what a private one-to-one cycling coach actually does, because that's the main form of coaching someone will say. If they either say they're getting coached or they're a cycling coach, they probably mean doing one-to-one coaching. And probably the biggest thing a cycling coach does is actually schedules the rides that a rider will do. So every coach is different. I use Today's Plan, the software we use, but essentially one of my coach riders logs into Today's Plan and they can see their training calendar. And that has all the rides that I want them to go out and do. So each day they can have a look on their calendar and see what ride I'm telling them to do. Now, this isn't just me saying, go and do this, go and do this, go and do this. They might have races in there, they might have group rides in there, and I will work around specific training around that. Now that might seem quite simple, but it's actually more complex than it looks, because a rider's training, if you're a good coach, needs to take into account where they live. Now I coach riders worldwide, so that takes time to actually look at what they have access to, their availability, what else they're doing. So even just the setting of the training isn't as simple as just adding workouts in. There's a lot of consideration that needs to go on. So then following on from that, another key part of a cycling coach's job is goal formation. If you're someone who's racing, it's quite easy because you've got your A races, you've got your B races, you have your local crits, those sorts of things. That's actually quite easy. But that's a relatively small part of riders that want to be coached that actually do racing. I coach a lot of riders that don't do any racing at all. And then it's about working with them, especially if they're beginner, maybe they're new to cycling, and they're kind of like, they don't know where to go. They don't know what the steps are. They don't know what they might enjoy. So actually working with them regularly and reassessing goals and setting things that they're going to enjoy doing that are physically challenging, that is a key part of a coach's job. Hey guys, I'm editing the video and I always forget to do this. I forgot to tell you guys, if you have any questions about what a cycling coach does, what they can offer, not even specifically just about me, but just about cycling coaching in general, leave it down below and I'll get back to you. I'm an open book, happy to tell how it is. So yeah, use the comments below to have a chat with me. So you've set goals, you've set training. Another key part for a cycling coach is being a source of truth and a place and someone who can provide advice. Now that is super broad. It could be anything. Maybe it's equipment. I got a few notes here. It could be equipment, nutrition, like how to adjust training. Because obviously, like you would set the training in the calendar, but then things come up, things get busy, you're more fatigued, you're less fatigued, stuff needs to be adjusted. So there needs to be back and forth discussion and advice there. If they're racing, race tactics, like I think it's not just setting training. Actually, where value is provided to an athlete is advice and discussion with a cycling coach. And that's the part that takes quite a lot of time. Now, on the nutrition thing, it's quite interesting because as an exercise and sports scientist, which is my qualification, I have a scope of practice. So there needs to be a line drawn where I will provide nutrition advice generally, especially in regards to how it relates to training and fueling and recovery. But I'm not a dietitian, and that's where the scope of practice will come in, where if it gets to the point where I feel like a rider's needing specific diet advice, then I'll recommend them to go and see a sports dietitian. So yeah, I guess a cycling coach needs to know where to draw the line in terms of advice. Another key part of what I offer as a cycling coach, and other coaches do too, would be discussion around getting onto a team or progressing in someone's cycling career. So this isn't something everyone wants access to, but it is a key part, is not only getting a rider fitter and getting more race results, but providing specific advice around how to either it's get on a local team or get on a domestic team, things like that. So providing a clear pathway for riders that want that is very important, and is something that some cycling coaches can offer as well. So the final thing here is related to why cycling coaches charge monthly. So you might be wondering, well, I'm just training for an event that's in a few months' time. Why would I pay monthly? And the reason for that is it's the structure of an entire year and entire seasons that get long-term progression. So part of a cycling coach's job isn't just to schedule a few weeks in advance or even a few months. It's to schedule out more of a whole year and come up with a plan around what are you going to do this year? Where are you going to be looking to target? So what most people would have heard of before as periodization, but that's not even just in a year in terms of it could be multiple years, doing more longer term planning. And that's where you actually see better long-term progression, and probably why at least I charge monthly and probably most other cycling coaches charge monthly is because that riders will see better results if they're on long-term. If you've got riders that are just constantly doing 2 or 3 month sort of training plans or little periods and then going off and doing something else and coming back, they're going to struggle to see long-term progression. So more bigger picture holistic planning is also a part of a cycling coach's job. So then what does my day as a cycling coach actually look like? I could probably do a whole video on this, which I might do, but just in general, because I mentioned that I don't do very rarely do in-person coaching. Most of what I do is online. For this, I use Today's Plan. Now, it depends on who your coach is, some coaches use email or WhatsApp and things like that. I prefer to keep everything self-contained in Today's Plan. That's not just a training calendar and then analytics tools. There's an entire inbox in there. So I've got an inbox where I've got riders leaving comments on their rides. They're sending me direct messages on there. I've got it's a whole ecosystem of things on there. So most of my day, I'm sitting at my computer on Today's Plan, chatting to riders, planning, scheduling, things like that. And then obviously phone calls, video calls are a part of that as well. So I use a scheduling system and have riders booking in calls to chat with me in more detail or to review certain things that are easily done over a video or voice call. So yeah, as a private one-to-one cycling coach, I'm actually spending most of my day at the computer, not necessarily out riding with my riders, doing things like that. So that's it for this video, guys. Hope you got something out of it and learned something, and I'll catch you in the next one.